This is a video response to Sal's toggler brain teaser. The problem I had with his solution was that he didn't specify whether you could change your second question based on the first answer. So I came up with a solution that has the same two questions, and by their answers in the end, you can figure out who's a truth teller and who's a toggler. Alright, so these are the two questions I came up with. Question number one. If I were to ask you to point to a toggler 2 times, who would you point to the second time? Well, there's only 3 scenarios. You could either be asking the truth teller, an honest toggler, or a lying toggler. If you were to ask a truth teller this question, then it doesn't matter that you ask him twice, he's always going to tell the truth. So he's going to point to a toggler anytime. Now, he could either point to an honest toggler or a lying toggler. Okay. If you ask an honest toggler, who would you point to the second time? Then he knows he's going to lie the second time, so he's going to be honest about that. He's going to point to the truth teller. If you ask a lying toggler, he's going to lie about what he's going to do the second time. The second time he's going to tell the truth. So the second time he would point to a toggler, but he's going to lie about it, so he's going to point to a truth teller. So you have 2 scenarios. Either the truth teller is pointing to a toggler, honest or lying, or the toggler is pointing to a truth teller. Those are the only 2 scenarios you could have. Okay, so question number 2 is a little complicated, but if you walk through it, you'll understand. If I were to ask you twice, what would your second response be to the following? If I were to ask them twice, what would they say their second response would be to? Is the person pointing to you the truth teller? Alright, let's go through this. Let's start with the truth teller, scenario 1, which is the honest toggler. Okay. If I were to ask you twice, what would be your second response to the following? Well, he's always telling the truth, so you can disregard that part. So I'm asking him basically, if I were to ask them twice, what would they say their second response would be to? Is the person pointing to you the truth teller? So their second response would be lying. They would lie and say that the person pointing to me is not the toggler. But they're going to be honest about that. So they're going to say no. Since the truth teller is always telling the truth, then he will say that they would say their second response is no, because they're lying. Okay? Now, with the lying toggler, it's the same concept. Okay? If I were to ask you 2 times, he's a truth teller, doesn't matter. If I were to ask them twice, what would their second response, what would they say their second response would be to? Is the person pointing to you a truth teller? So his second response is going to be a truth. Yeah, he's a truth teller, but he's going to lie about that. So he's going to say, no, he's not the truth teller. And since he always tells the truth, it's no. Okay. So scenario 1, it works. The truth teller points away, and the only answer he could get is no. Okay? So that's, if the answer is no, then the person answering is the truth teller. Okay? So let's see if my second part is right. Okay. Let's say you're asking an honest toggler. So the first time you asked him, he told the truth about that. So he's told the truth about how he's going to lie the next time. Now he's a lying toggler. Actually, it doesn't matter. Let's just pretend this is the honest toggler the second time and the lying toggler the second time, because things are going to get too confusing. Okay, so if I were to ask you twice, what would your second response be to the following? So, honest toggler is going to lie this time. Lie this time. Okay? Lying toggler, if I were to ask you twice, what would your second response be to the following? So he's going to tell the truth this time, but he's going to lie about the truth. and he's gonna tell, the first one's gonna tell the truth about the lie. So basically they're both lying. So whatever answer they come up with this, they're gonna say the opposite. So if I were to ask them twice, which is the person you're pointing to, if I were to ask the truth teller twice, what would their second response be to, well, their second response doesn't matter because they're always telling the truth. So if I were to ask the truth teller twice, what would their response be to, is the person pointing to you a truth teller? Now, the truth teller is always going to tell the truth. So he's going to say, no, the person pointing to me is not a truth teller, it's a toggler. But since he's lying this time, he'll say yes. He's saying yes because he's lying about the truth teller, saying that they are not the truth teller. I know it's kind of confusing, but yeah, that's what happens. And the same thing happens with the other one. So that's the second answer. If they respond yes, then they are a toggler pointing to the truth teller. And that is my response. I'm sure it's flawless, and it's the same two questions every single time. Thank you.